Heba Hamzeh is an author known for creating and writing Prince Zaaki and the Royal Sword of Luella, which received much critical acclaim, as well as the second book in the series, Prince Zaaki and the Momentous Battle of the Kingdoms. And she's on the line with us here just now. How are you doing today?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, how would you describe the whole series of books that you've done in the Prince Zaaki series?
Okay, so it follows a boy named Prince Zaaki as he's becoming an adult, and he's heir to the throne of the Kingdom of Luella. He decides to embark on an expedition across his kingdom to meet the people of his kingdom. He feels that he cannot serve them as their king in the future if he does not know them and know where they live and how they live and so on. And so the story begins there.
Yeah.
It's not all roses and fairies. There is evil that wants to rid the kingdom of the royal family and take over the Kingdom of Luella. And so before his journey, Prince Zaaki is given a special sword by his father, King Zaaki, and he's been given some spells by the royal wizard, Futurist. And these, the sword and the spells help him when he becomes under attack by mystical creatures, dragons, and so on. It's full of adventure. It's full of battles. It also does have a little element of love where you see the prince fall in love. But during his travels, he finds himself taken to this sort of mysterious hidden island called Kos Island. Where two goddesses reside, and they have a special school there run by angels. It's called the Transcend School, and it's for uniquely gifted children. But these children are there because they have been excluded from society, or they hide from society because of their unique gifts. And they find solace in the Transcend School, and they learn to control their powers there and develop them. And the goddesses have given this to the children. They sort of to feel that they are included in everything. And these gifts, these powers that they have are not anything bad, that they can use them for good. And so, the plot and the stories develop throughout the books, and you can follow it through the ever-growing maps in each book. So in the first book, the map starts with just the Kingdom of Luella. And then in the second book, the map has more kingdoms in it, and then and it carries on, so on and so forth. So the map is ever growing as the plot and the development of the characters and the locations expand.
Yeah, and every good fantasy book has a map, doesn't it?
Definitely.
So what actually inspired you to write these books?
I would probably say my children. When they were younger, I used to read them bedtime stories at night. And one evening, I think we had read through all the books we had, and my son didn't want to sleep. And he was like, "Mum, one more. And so I thought, let me make one up. And I started with Once Upon a Time. And I looked at my son and I went, there's a boy named Prince Zaaki. And the Prince Zaaki books were created. I sort of based the three main characters, the prince and the two goddesses, on my children, my two daughters and my son. And I sort of took him on an adventure across this sort of magical sort of fiction kingdom and I named it Luella. And it just developed from there. Every night my son would be like, what's Prince Zaaki doing next? So I'd come up with another adventure, another battle, another sort of different place and different people. And I made up animals as well. So you'll see in all the books, but the first book, there's an animal called the Gertigs. The Gertigs are sort of half giraffe, half tiger. And they play around and they roam around in the royal palace gardens of the kingdom. So, I think it was definitely my children who inspired the Prince Zaaki series.
Where did the name Zaaki come from, and how did you come up with Luella as well? Were they just sort of random in the moment, or did you maybe have a bit more time to think about it?
He is my son's name. Luella is a combination of both my daughter. Well, my eldest is called Lara, but I call her Lulu. And my second daughter is called Ella. So I put Luella together, Lulu and Ella together, and I came up with Luella. So definitely you can see that my inspiration for these books were for my 3 children.
Yeah. And you've done 2 books in the series so far, of course. Have you got more planned after this one?
Just finished writing the 3rd book.
Wow.
And worked with the illustration team on all the illustrations and the front cover. That's all done, and it will be, hopefully, it's going to the publishers, and the publishers are working on it. So it should be out later this year, the 3rd one. Yes. Right. So I'm very excited to share that with everyone as well.
Yeah, that's exciting. Have you got even more plans after that one? Do you have maybe a number in mind of how many you want to do?
I don't want to limit myself and say I'm going to write 4 or 5 books in the series. I'm very passionate about the Prince Zaaki series. I can let you in on a little secret. Last week I started writing the 4th one.
Wow.
I don't know. I woke up one night and I had a little creative blast, and I just wanted to get it down. So I started writing the opening chapter of the 4th book. As long as I feel the passion is there and I can create more and I can develop the characters more, introduce new characters and the storyline and the plots, I will keep going. Yeah. So not going to limit myself with that, with the number yet.
And there's some really cool illustrations in the book, aren't there? Who did them?
With the first book, the publisher introduced me to a lady they had on their team named Tamar, and I drew rough sketches. I drew the map out and images of sort of Prince Zaaki and his flying horse, Strong Heart, and things like that. And it was and I sent a lot of descriptive pieces about them. And it was just a lot of back and forth between me and the illustrator, Tamar. And she sort of put it all together and came up with these beautiful images in the first and second book. I will also say the front cover of the second book was done by White Magic Studios here in England. I worked with them on the video trailers. They did 2 video trailers for each of 1 video trailer per book. So there's 2 video trailers out right now for the books. And they did the front cover of the second book. Yeah. And they've actually done the front cover and all the illustrations for my 3rd book for me. So very excited to share that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So what actually got you interested in writing in the first place then?
I would definitely say that would probably be my primary school teacher, Miss Gamble. I've always thought about this, and I always go back to that time when I was very young, and she gave the whole class, we all had to pick out of a hat a name of a poem. And I picked out The Tiger by William Blake. I will never forget it. Tiger, Tiger, Bunny, but that poem. And we had to go home, research it, learn it, and come back and discuss it and say the poem off by heart. And I fell in love with poetry, and that sort of turned into writing poems, which I did at a young age, and then creative writing, and now these Prince Zaaki series of books. Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it would maybe be quite hard to write 4 books and possibly more in the same series. So what actually motivates you to keep going and writing? Is it just you still feel there's more story to tell?
I agree with that. There is still more that I can tell in these series, and I do try and make them relevant to what's going on today so that readers can associate themselves and find, that happened to me, or I'm going through that, and how does Prince Zaaki deal with this, or how does another character deal with this? So there are I do put some values into the book, but motivating me as well to keep going in the sort of same series. I have boards up all around my room. Wow. Where there's one board that's got the first book, and I put like little post-its on there, and I write on there, and I've got a picture of the map, the first map I ever drew for the first book, and images and sort of describing different scenes. And then I've got another sort of notice board with all the notes that I made for the second book as well, and then another one for the 3rd book. So that sort of helps me sort of remember what I wrote there, so I don't, change different descriptions and things. But also I want to show my children and everyone that they should follow their dreams. Seeing my children grow up into the young adults they are now, I want them to know that, you can follow your dreams with hard work and believing in yourself and having that support system. You know, my kids always encouraging me, and they love the Prince Zaaki books, and so it's nice to share with them, but also to show them, you know, I want you to follow your dreams, because you can achieve anything by doing that. I mean, as I said before, I've always loved poetry, and I have written a book of poems as well, which I hope one day I'll publish. And also I want to, like, I have a lot, I want to write a cookbook. I was born in Beirut, Lebanon, and at a very young age, my parents fled the country. I think I was between the ages of 1 and 2 when we fled the country because of the unrest. And we came here. But I was lucky enough to be surrounded by my mother and my aunt and my gran, who cooked for us, me and my brother and my cousins. We all lived together. Yeah. And they cooked for us all these Lebanese mountain food that you don't typically find in a Lebanese restaurant. They're sort of different, very sort of different style of cooking. And I'd love to share that special food with the world one day, in a cookbook. So I have a lot of things that I want to do, but right now I'm very focused on the Prince Zaaki series.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, where can we find the Prince Zaaki series if we'd like to buy it?
So, firstly, the publisher's website. They're called D'Angelo Publications. Yeah. You can also find them on Amazon Kindle, Waterstones, Barnes and Noble, and also you can go to my website, which is princezakibook.com. There's a link to the Amazon pages on there. And can I also just add, in the hardback of the second book, Prince Zaaki and the Momentous Battle of the Kingdoms, the hardback book, I have written a little message, and it's signed from me as well to the readers.
That's fun. Well, many thanks for joining us on the show today. It's been great to chat to you.
I really enjoyed it.